You're tuned into the Writing Community Chat Show, the live streaming YouTube podcast that brings you the stories of authors, screenwriters, and more. Indie or established, this show's for the community, and we invite you to be a part of it. Head to the writingcommunitychatshow.com for more info. The WCCS. Together as one, we get it done.
Hello and welcome to Friday and the Writing Community Chat Show. Glad to have you here. Let's get into it. Hello everybody, thank you for joining us here on the Writing Community Chat Show on this Friday evening. We have a fantastic guest with us today and I'm going to get him out straight away because I'm not messing around with this one because there's so much advice for you to get from this show, and he's a fantastic guest. We've had him on before, and if you are into anything in the world of self-publishing or just general positivity, this guy is the person that you should be going to. So yeah, I'm going to get Mr. Dale Roberts out and we'll have a chat with him. And you may have noticed that Agat's not here, and that's because he's not well, but we're going to stay positive and we're going to keep this submission about learning as much as we possibly can. So let's forget about Agat for a second and say hello to this man. Hello, Dale.
Yeah, you know, we got right, Chris. And right, Chris is the only one we really need, right? We don't need left, Chris.
Don't say that. He is very sensitive.
I'm totally kidding. I'm totally kidding, left, Chris. Yeah,
we love you, Agat. We love you.
Yeah. He's a great guy, and I'm glad to actually be able to spend some time here with you, Chris. This is fantastic. I'm a repeat guest. Do I get a gold jacket yet?
I think that is in order. I think we should send you definitely a T-shirt with what would you call it? I've had a threesome. No, you wouldn't say I've had a threesome with the Writing Community Chat. So it's the
yes. With the you know what? I would wear it. You know what? I would wear it. Some people are like, you got what?
But no, Dale, it's absolutely brilliant to have you on again. We learned so much from you last time out, and you know, I'm sure we're going to get even more information and more exciting things coming from you as well this time around. So what have you been doing between now and the last time you were on the show?
Man, the last time I was on the show, if you remember, we were having that competition where it was US authors versus UK authors, and you guys crushed us. It was humiliating. I was like, you know what? I got to come back and make up for that loss. And I think that this is the perfect way to do it. I've been super, super busy, and right now I'm in the midst of releasing a 12-book series, and I'm releasing one book per month all the way up to about June. And then on July, I'll do a Kickstarter to do the entire omnibus for the 12-book series. And thankfully, when that's all done, I'm going to be able to fully pivot over into fiction writing. I've been doing some fiction writing. I did a lot of it in 2022. But now, like, my heart is kind of drawing me in that direction. So I felt like this 12-book series was just a way to kind of just like, here's all the information you're going to get from me. Go ahead, soak it up. It's fantastic. I think once in a while, I'll probably come back maybe every couple of years and revise and update some of the books. But beyond that, like, I'm just so looking forward to getting into fiction writing. I'm not sure, like, what do you enjoy writing more, like nonfiction or fiction?
I've been doing a bit of both. The way I've split it recently is I've been doing non-fiction in the week, fiction at the weekend.
Interesting.
So just a little bit and dabbling in both areas because I'm writing a non-fiction book at the minute that's all about being positive and looking. It's called Positivity Hunting.
Nice.
And yeah, I love it. And you know what? It's made a massive difference to my whole life. You know, I've stopped drinking. I'm no longer getting depressed and all these types of things.
Yeah.
This is testament to how well it works. I applied for a job, went for an interview, didn't get the job, and still saw all the positives. I didn't feel bad about it one little bit, just cracked on with the rest of my day. So I know it's working, and I just hope it can start to help other people at some point.
That's so cool. I think the last time you and I were together, you guys were definitely partaking in some alcoholic beverages, and it sounds like to me like you've kicked it off to the side since then.
Yeah, I've gone fully sober.
Congrats.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's been like 150 odd days plus, and it's probably been more than that, but I'm not counting anymore. And that's how I know it's
Yeah.
serious. That's how I know the lifestyle sort of changed. I
Yeah.
remember one of the particular meetings that we had when we had a little network of people. I drank about a bottle of rum before I even got onto the screen.
You
So
never
yeah,
looked that way. Like, honestly, I
yeah.
would have never known.
Well, that's the scary thing, that I was drinking so much that I was like, this is just normal.
Became very functional at it then. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm doing that nonfiction. And yeah, I'm really interested. Obviously, you said about 12 books.
Yeah. It's
How do you manage to do that? And like, has that made any difference in terms of like the uptake in the books? Like, is it like a series of people getting every single one, or they followed you through the whole journey? What's that been like?
I started writing these back in NaNoWriMo 2021, and my intent was to get them published in 2022. The biggest issue was, rather than just doing a single book, I ended up doing 3 books. Well, 2.5 to be exact. And so since I was halfway through one, I just continued writing through December of 2021. So I ended up having 4 publications. The problem was, I kind of made a promise to myself. I was going into 2022. And at that time, I said, I want to devote all of my time, energy, and attention into learning the craft of fiction writing, because I feel very confident and very happy with what I've done with nonfiction work. I've won tons of awards. Heck, even one of my recent books is now Pulitzer Prize nominated. So that to me, like, it's definitely an indicator I'm headed in the right direction when it comes to nonfiction. But to me, I've always wanted to be a fiction writer since I was a boy. And so this is kind of a boyhood dream of mine. And so I spent all of 2022 with a writing coach, and I was working a lot on fiction, and some of my homework actually got published on Kindle Vella. So each one of those episodes, when someone reads that, that's my homework. I was literally just doing the homework now. So these books that were written sat there and collected dust. And now keep in mind, it's not like I was just, I'm done writing, I'm just going to focus 100% on fiction. You and I both know, when you've got an itch, you got to scratch it, right? It's not like you were like, you know what, I want to write a book on positivity. Nah, yeah, let's just do fiction only. Like, I was still spending that time and writing some of it. So 2023, I ended up with having 8 publications in all. And I was like, oh crap, what have I done? So I ended up digging into the books. I found that a lot of it had to be rewritten because some of it is very timely. So a lot of it was outdated. So for instance, I had a book on wide publishing, and in it I was talking about Smashwords as an avenue to go to. Well, go figure, Smashwords got acquired by Draft Digital in that time. And so naturally I had to completely eliminate an entire chapter, and was pretty bummed about that. But lesson learned: when you write something, just get it done. And yeah, I ended up with those 8 publications now. The reason why I say 12 is I'm going to be taking 3 of my other books. I'm going to be doing a revision of those ones as well, and an update. And then I'm going to tack it on to the end of that. And then I'm going to finalize the entire series with a book about email marketing. But that's a long-winded answer to say, yeah, I've got a lot of books coming now. As far as people following me along for the journey, right now, I just released this past weekend advertising for books. It's about Amazon advertising, of all things. And it's going really well. The 3 books, I feel like momentum is picking up. So it seems like with each release, I'm seeing more sales and those backlog of books. So I'd imagine as soon as I get to the end of the series, it's going to be like a massive stack as far as the revenue goes, because there's an entire series for people to kind of go through. And I'm very fortunate that I have quite a platform. With YouTube, I have nearly 100,000 subscribers, and on another channel, I've got 13,000 subscribers. So I'm very fortunate to be the position that I am, and the audience is looking for that. So it's not like, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and write a book, throw it out there, and hope for the best. I already have the proof of concept. I already have the audience that's willing and eager. And the beautiful thing is, because of having that type of influence and reach, I don't need to be beholden to Amazon. I don't have to be exclusively on that platform. So this means I can publish as wide as I want. And I'll tell you, I've been getting some direct sales. it's nice getting direct sales because you get all the money, as opposed to like, yeah, we're just going to give you a little bit of the money, where it's, if you price it outside a certain range, Amazon's going to be like, well, we're going to give you 35% royalty. What are you doing? How about we go back to that 70%? That sounds better. So now I'm able to sell this on my own terms. And if for some reason I don't want to work with Amazon, I can always just pull it off the platform and continue like business as usual.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I love that. Chris has popped his head up in the chat. He say, hi, everyone. Left Chris here. I'm going to be missing this. I love Dale. He's a great guy. But taking Right Chris's positives, I get to chat to you guys. Right, Chris, you are inspiring. Oh, I love you, man. Hope you get better soon.
Yes, please do get better. And by the way, I didn't mean any of those bad things.
Yeah, we did. We love you. Anya, hello to you. Happy Friday. Honor, happy Friday to you as well.
Nice.
Yeah, nice to see you guys. Obviously, if you've got questions for Dale in the I say latter part of the show, but Dale's been on the show multiple times, so just throw your questions in and we'll slip them into the conversation. I'm sure Dale will be well up for answering those. But yeah, Dale, I'm really interested about you making that transition over to fiction. Obviously, you mentioned about getting a writing coach. Obviously, you've had so much success in the field of writing anyway. What made you feel that, do you know what, I'm going to get a coach and I'm going to move into fiction? Like, what were your sort of two inspirations behind those two elements?
Confidence. I want to have that same confidence that I have for nonfiction writing. I am very confident in that aspect, that I can sit down and write a nonfiction book like that. But you get me to sit down and do something with fiction, there's a little more reluctance. There's a little more hesitation in my writing. I find that sometimes I wouldn't want to call it writer's block. It's more like a writer's dam. It slows down just a little bit. I still have a trickle of stuff, but I find that I'm a lot more hesitant, and I know that requires a lot more work, but getting the writing coach was a case of, okay, let me see what I'm doing right and let me see what I'm doing wrong. And it was a world of difference. And here's the funny thing is, because of working with Jeannie DeVita was her name, with Book Jeannie. Jeannie was fantastic in her instructions, so much so that some of the lessons I picked up through fiction writing really was helpful with my nonfiction. So I found that the last two books I wrote in 2023, they were great. And she even said, like, when she went through to edit those, she was like, these are really, really clean. These are fantastic. I was like, well, it's because I wrote them after coaching with you, as opposed to the other ones, which were written before coaching with you. And it was a remarkable improvement. So that part, at least, I know that I didn't spend thousands of dollars on writing coaching, and it only just affected fiction. It really was helpful with nonfiction. So if anything, it made me more confident with nonfiction, which I already was pretty confident, but it also gave me a little bit more of an understanding where I am at with my fiction writing and understanding it. So it's so fascinating to me. Like the whole idea of fiction, of just making up things, and people are entertained by that. But it's not so simple as, well, let me just go ahead and throw words on the paper. You got to kind of structure it in a way that keeps people reading from beginning to end and feel excited about getting to that specific point. So yeah, I love me some fiction writing, and just the writing coaching alone. Now, is it something I'd recommend to everybody else? It depends. I had the discretionary budget to do it. I can definitely afford that. I know that not everybody can be able to afford a writing coach. So if you do have the opportunity, it's highly recommended. And I really like the fact that it was one-on-one coaching. It wasn't so much like a classroom setting, because I feel like if I were to go to like a college course, there's going to be that disconnect between myself and the teacher. I like that one-on-one attention. That way, when I'm working, I can kind of look over my shoulders and go, is this good? Yeah. All right. We're good to go. So it's one of those instances.
Yeah, I love that. And that links in nicely to a question we've just popped up. So Anya says, what are some ways to increase confidence if we don't feel that we have it?
Oh man, I want to hear what your answer is, Chris, on this one.
Oh, I think again, if you're writing for somebody else, I don't think you're ever going to get that confidence that you're searching for, because lots of people are going to interpret your writing in different ways. Some people could hate it, some people could love it. But I think if you write for yourself and you read it and you think, do you know what, I like that. Like, that should be the key to confidence, because then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you send it out and a million people hate it. You like it, so therefore that should be the increased confidence that you need. Have some faith in yourself and your own writing, because I think back of loads of different novels, some really successful novels, like Lolita, for example, is a hugely commercial successful novel, but some people think it's absolute just disgusting thoughts on a page and absolutely vile, but it's still done really well. So, like, just as long as you like it, that should be enough, and take your confidence from that. That would be my advice.
Yeah,
How
I
good that is, I don't know.
love. Yeah, you got such great advice on this one, and you nailed it. To me, I think I can probably come from a different angle on this one here, in that it just takes practice. I think I heard it once said, "Dance as if nobody's looking." You need to write as if nobody's looking. Just let the thoughts spill out on the page and enjoy the process and go along with it. That's why I say, the fiction writing, it's not like I'm underconfident. I'm confident that I'm in the right direction. I just need that little bit of a nudge to kind of figure, okay, I am doing okay. So the daily practice of writing, that's probably going to be the biggest advice that I've ever heard. Kevin Tumlinson wrote the 30-day author plan, I think it was what it's called. And his recommendation was to, every day before you write anything, sit down for about 15 minutes, like literally turn on a timer for 15 minutes and just journal. Write about your day, write about what's crossing your mind, write about anything you want to. It doesn't matter what it is. The whole process is to remove that inner editor, that inner critic, because no one's going to read a journal. Absolutely no one's going to read it. I mean, unless you want them to, but most instances, you're just writing almost like as a cathartic process. And so getting that 15 minutes done, I have found works wonders for all of writing for me. Whether I'm writing a blog post or a nonfiction book or a fiction book or even like a short story of some sort, doing that 15 minutes kind of primes the pumps and gets me feeling a little bit better. Now, does it make me feel permanently confident? No, not by any stretch, but it does get it to the point where I'm putting, pen to paper, in a virtual sense, and just getting the job done. And I think that if you can get the reps in, it makes a huge difference. I think we can all agree that if you're new to working out, going into the gym, you're not going to feel confident. You're going to see people that are in better shape than you. You're going to see some people just drenched in sweat. You're going to think, oh, are they judging me? Are they looking at me wrong or anything else like that? But in due time, if you just keep showing up to the gym and putting in your work, you're going to find that you're not only getting stronger, you're getting better, you're also going to build that confidence. So it's just a case of showing up on a daily basis. Now, if for some reason you are time strapped and you're the type of person like, Dale, I just don't have the time, just at least make a promise to yourself that you come to it on a weekly basis. So that way you're not getting rusty, because that's the problem, is if you're not showing up consistent enough, there's no way to build that confidence muscle, if you will.
Yeah, look, I'm going to build on that slightly, because I'm going to say on a daily basis, set your base level. Go, no matter how bad the day is, I can do that. So that could be 2 sentences, it could be a paragraph, it could be 50 words, 100 words, whatever you want to do. Just say, it doesn't matter. Even if my best friend dies on that day, I'm still going to get 20 words in. You know what I mean? That's your base level. And then set, again, on the flip side of that, set your peak. This is if I was on it all day and I was writing and I was in the zone, maybe I'd do 4,000 words. And then aim for one of those either day, depending on how you're feeling. If you're feeling great when you wake up, think, do you know what? I'm going to aim for that 4,000 today. If you're feeling bad when you wake up, think, do you know what? I'm just going to get that 20 words in. And like you said, Dale, over time, like if you go to a gym, you'll feel more confident, and that will spark. We had Noel Clarke on the show, and he wrote Kiddlehood, and he was in Bulletproof, and he was an inspiration on the show when we had him on. And even though he told me to sort my life out, he gave me some advice that I still remember every single day. And the advice that he gave me was that action creates motivation, which creates more action. So if you just keep doing it, even and especially when you don't feel like it will start to generate itself. And that's what you've got to do. You've just got to get after it and go after it. So
one of my biggest motivators for getting it done when I don't feel like it is I go, who's going to pay the bills? And I'm like, oh yeah, I better get it done.
Yeah, I've got to do it.
I think there's a great quote I want to share here real quick because I had to look this one up, and I always like bringing this up. Bruce Lee, famous martial artist. I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. And I think this lends a lot more to what Chris was saying of, getting consistent no matter how little you might perceive it, because that little amount does add up over time. I mean, it can turn from something so small to a massive novel if you were just to keep doing something throughout the course of a year, 2 years, 3 years. If you still consistently show up, you're going to do so much better. And Bruce Lee will be, of course, afraid of you if he were alive.
Yeah. So, Anya, I hope that we've answered your question there. And I'm sorry to hear that you've been low on confidence all week, but maybe stick some of the advice that me and Dale have been talking about and see if your week improves. I know it will if you follow some of the steps, because we've been there and we've done it ourselves. We've both been low on confidence and we've done those things and got out on the other side. And things do change. Like, again, I saw a really inspirational quote about trees. If you're ever feeling low or whatever, trees shed all their leaves every year, but still stand firm, and then good times come again. So
I love that.
Keep at it, and they will arrive. There's another question here. I think this is from Chris. Gets muscling in, but he says, "What's the single most common mistake you see new writers make when they start to self-publish? How can they avoid it at any cost?"
Ooh, new authors typically get in their own way. I find that a lot of instances that they're excited about their idea. They're excited to, like, oh, they'll get a hold of me. And this is a funny thing. Sometimes people will pay good money for consultations with me, and I sit down with them. I'm like, oh, what do you have right now? And they're like, oh, I got a great idea up here. Like, you didn't write the manuscript. You need to write that manuscript. So I think that's probably the biggest mistake I often see is with new authors. They're too busy thinking about this grandiose idea rather than executing. And there's a big difference. And I think, and this is just my theory and it's just my opinion, but I think in a lot of instances, writers get stuck in their own head about how perfect their book is going to be, that then it becomes overwhelming, like a feeling of I'm not good enough to deliver what I'm thinking in my head. Right now is not a good day because this idea is too good for a bad day. Like one of those instances. And I think that the biggest deal that new authors need to get past is get the first draft done. Just get that first draft done. I don't care how hammered garbage it looks. I don't care if it reads absolutely stupid, but at least you have something to edit, because I often hear it said, you can't edit a blank page. I mean, it's true. You could sit here and talk about all these ideas up in your head, but guess what? That's not going to get published. You're not yet. I'm sure eventually, like Neuralink or something like that's going to get it to where you can think of a book and it's going to write it out for you eventually. I mean, right now, and artificial intelligence being at an all-time weird position in our business these days. But thinking about that book makes all the difference. Now, if there's another big mistake, is studying the market. New authors really, if they want to make a living in this business, hobbyists aside, if you're doing this because you just love it and you just want to get your work out into the world and you don't care about book sales, that's totally fine. But if you're looking at wanting to make book sales, you need to study the market. Where do you fit in the market? Who is your audience and how can you reach them? That is the most vital understanding, is study that market. And I even say this oftentimes, and I know this is to the detriment of some people's muse, but before you even type your first word, look at the market. Study it, figure out what do readers like and what are they missing in the current crop of books that are out right now, and how can you fill that gap? Because when you can kind of discuss and fill that gap right there to a certain extent, whether you're fiction or nonfiction, is the greatest way to go. And by the way, how do you study the market? Reviews. Reviews are the greatest, sign of what direction you need to be going. Find other books that are within the niche that you plan to write in, and look at the good reviews and look at the bad reviews. The good reviews are going to tell you where they nailed it. The bad reviews are going to tell you where the big gap is in the market. So that way you can kind of fill it. And here's the really cool thing. If you're doing fiction writing or nonfiction writing, it's just a case of thinking creatively. How can I fulfill that need? What is one way that I can bring something truly unique to the market that is going to be absolutely a game changer? So yeah, getting that first draft done, studying the market. Those are just the two biggest mistakes I see a lot of new authors doing, is they're just not taking their time. I know it's so exciting to be in this business and go, I got this idea. I'm going to go ahead and hammer it out. And you know what? It's just overwhelming. And I got to go look at other books in my niche. Do I got to read those books too? Yeah, you got to read those books too. It's a good idea. Study the market, get that first draft done.
Yeah. And I've got Halo was saying there about a delicious, deliciously villainous, as usual. And Halo, we're used to those type of comments for Halo. But I want to give everyone a deliciously villainous task that next time imposter syndrome comes, because we've got news for you folks. We've interviewed 300 authors. Imposter syndrome sticks around like a bad smell. But next time that voice creeps into your head, just know it's not you. Okay, it's somebody else. It's a different version of you. They're waltzing into your brain. So I want you to get hold of them, strap them in a chair, cover them with duct tape, put it over their mouth, and then maybe if you want to stab them a few times as well and be like, you are staying there. Okay, I'm getting this thing done. So
this is getting dark.
That next time. Yeah, exactly. Deliciously villainous. Do that next time. And I guarantee you'll feel instantly better.
I guarantee that, yeah, if you think about that too as well, it'll make you smile and it'll make you loosen up just a little bit, because you think about the hyperbole of taking this fake individual, tying him up, duct taping him, stabbing him a few times. I tell you what, I love that. That's great advice.
Yeah. And so, Dale, on that, I'm really interested because you said, obviously we know you as sort of the how-to guy. People are asking questions in the chat already about what do you do if this happens? What advice would you give to authors and stuff like that? But what I'm interested in, are you going to do a how-to guide? Because you're stepping into the world of fiction. And obviously you're discovering that yourself in terms of like making that transition. Are you going to save the sort of how-to process for the future? Like you said, you may come back to that type of stuff. Yeah. Could you use this process that you're going through to again have a new how-to, like how to make that transition into fiction? Is that something that you could do?
I think eventually that will come. I do have some how-to on nonfiction books. In fact, actually, I have a book coming out that's coming in November. It's how to write a nonfiction book in 24 hours. And
wow.
And a lot of people are going to go, what are you talking about? Yep. And by the way, I also proved it by writing the book in 24 hours. And I will tell you that required a lot of deep editing. It really did. But I'm very, very happy with that work. But as far as doing how-to with fiction, I would love to get to that point. My writing coach, she had said many times, like, you're ahead of most people when it comes to understanding story structure, the whole three, parts of beginning, middle, and end. I've got a good firm grasp on it. And actually, the funny thing is, it's because of years of me reading fiction books that I could kind of see that pattern and understand that structure and that flow and understanding tropes and really just, I kind of learned it indirectly, I think. And then I started picking up some craft books and really starting to, that was in 2022 that I really just devoted myself to understanding it. Would I end up doing it? Yes. I think that would probably be, I would say, at least another 5 years down the road, because I would love to be a lot more prolific. See, me writing a book about nonfiction books, about writing it, I feel comfortable because I've already published well over I always say 50 generically, but I think it's actually over 70 at this point because I have an
Mm,
entire bookshelf right over here of nothing but my
mm,
fitness books. And then
mm,
now it's starting to grow even more with all the books about self-publishing. So it's become
mm,
so massive. I think that once I have enough of those under my belt, that I'll be able
mm,
to do that. Uh, the biggest advantage, I think, with me learning fiction, and this is going to sound strange and you're going to crack up when I tell you this, was I spent let's see here, between 2002 and 2011, I was a pro wrestler, and it was
mm,
off and on for a number of times. And a lot of people will say, "Oh, isn't pro wrestling fake?" Yeah, let's not use the F word, but yes, it is predetermined. But the thing is, it's sports entertainment, as some people would refer to it as, and
mm,
it is a story that's being told within a ring. It's
mm,
something that is being told, like you've got the good guy versus the bad guy. You have the giant versus the, small person. There's always the stories that you're having to tell. And so I was very fortunate to have a number of coaches and been
mm,
exposed to a lot of great wrestlers over the years where they would tell you it wasn't so much about doing the fancy moves, but it was
mm,
how you would do those fancy moves. Does it make sense to the story that you're trying to portray to the audience? And I will tell you, you will learn how to craft a better story when your physical well-being is on the line. you
mm.
know, you don't want to make sure, it's like, I'm not just going to go do this dive to the floor without
Mm,
understanding like what is the story I'm trying to tell to this audience. And
mm,
so when I started working with my writing coach, she's noticed like right away, she's like, "Hey, how are you grasping some of these concepts so easily?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, it was because this one time I did this match where X, Y, and Z." And she's like, whoa, wait, hang on a second. Did you say you were a pro wrestler? And I was like, yeah. And that's what they really, the very experienced wrestlers, the old time wrestlers will always impart to you. It's not about those moves. It's about the story and the ride you want to take the attendees along on. And so when I learned that,
mm,
okay, I can preserve my physical well-being by thinking creatively around that. And then the funny thing is, anytime I would get an injury, that story changes because that could become part of the story, of,
mm,
oh, he's got an injury.
mm,
That guy's going to attack that injury. There's just that tension. You're going to build that up
mm,
like, oh, he's coming out. He's hobbling on that knee. Ooh, oh, he better not touch that knee. Oh, yeah, he keeps going after that knee. And there's that story you get to tell. Or for that matter, if it's really, really bad, you
mm,
don't want them to touch that at all and go, well, maybe my elbow is injured. And they go after that. So that way it can kind of take people away from seeing what's
mm,
wrong with my actual, knee at that specific time, which by the way, never injured my knee. I
mm,
only injured my spine and my back and my hands.
mm. Only just things that you don't need. You're all right. That's fine.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So Dale, I'm really interested with obviously you talked before about researching the market before
Yeah.
going into it. Um, I'm guessing obviously that you've done that. And then how have you sort of landed on your idea for your fictional novel? What have you done and what was that process like and where you at? Obviously if you can share a bit of information with us, that'd be great.
Well, right now I have half of a series that's published on Kindle Vella called Infestate. It's a horror series. I had the idea for that prior to doing the coaching. My intent wasn't necessarily to publish an entire novel at that particular time. My thought was, let me just start
Mm,
with small episodic short stories. So that way it's easy for me
mm,
to learn. It's way easy to learn story structure when you're having to do 2,500 words as opposed to 100,000 words. And so that was my whole reason of kind of going into that. I do know that when I do fully pivot over to fiction, I will probably finish up that series, but my next step is going to be potentially novellas and working my way up to
mm,
novels. It's kind of building that confidence again. I don't feel like I'm
mm,
ready to go start deadlifting 500 pounds just yet since I just popped into the gym.
mm,
But as far as researching the
mm,
market goes, I did a lot when it came to horror, but not too much as I probably should have, especially when it came to Kindle Vella. Because
mm,
if I would have paid more attention to the market, I would have known that automatically Kindle Vella is a wasteland for horror writers. Are there some successful people on Kindle Vella with horror? Absolutely. But by and large, with Kindle Vella in that marketplace, it's a lot of romance and erotica. Those two niches do really, really well. I think if I had to do it over again, I probably would have walked it back. Instead of doing Kindle Vella, I would have formatted it more importantly for like Kindle Unlimited, because there is where I see some traction for horror writers. Is it huge? No, but I do know that over the last couple of years, horror is getting its time in the spotlight again. We're starting to see a little bit more growth in that area. I follow a great horror writer and editor, Jonathan Mayberry, and he shared a little bit of that information of like, it's really, we're seeing horror starting to go towards that direction again. And I'm not going to write probably anything outside of horror. If you were to say to me like, hey, Dale, you know, would you write a book that would be romance or erotica? Could I? Probably. Would I like doing it? Most likely not. And that's one of the reasons why I say, like, don't deny your muse. Definitely go with what your gut feels. But if you can look at the marketplace and study that, it'll better help you craft your stuff. I know that once I'm done with that series, I'm going to be a lot more diligent about that research in the market and making sure that whatever short stories or novellas that I'm putting out makes sense, and that there is appeal and there is a market for that. And there's proof of concept, because like I said, someone's got to pay these bills, and I guess that I got to do it. So that means I need to do the responsible things, what a business would normally do, what a traditional publishing company would do, which is understanding the market. Where's the proof of concept? Is there an audience to go to?
Yeah, I suppose I'm going to ask you a little bit, because we're on the platform of Substack, which
love me some Substack.
Yeah, everything that you've said, obviously, about direct to the consumer in terms of email lists and all that type of stuff. Obviously, the sort of format behind Substack is that is the case. You can build that personal communication. So, other than Substack, I suppose I've got a twofold question. What do you think of Substack and sort of how people can utilize that? And if they weren't too into that, what else could they do in order to sort of build that profile without just relying on a sort of traditional publisher to project them into the stratosphere in terms of sales and stuff?
Yeah, I always love that, where some people believe that landing that traditional publishing deal is going to launch them into the stratosphere. But unless you have a sweetheart of a deal, in a lot of instances, you're still going to be responsible largely for the marketing and promotion. I've met a lot of people that have had trad pub deals, and they're like, it's not as cool as you would think it is. Yeah, you get a nice little sweet advance, but you're still responsible for that marketing promotion. But as far as building that platform, Substack is great. I actually had my former content manager had turned me on to Substack. And by the way, this is the first time I've ever live streamed on Substack. This is freaking cool. So you guys have given me a first ever, but my content manager had shown me Substack and was like, you got to try this out. And I was just like, oh, I don't want to. It's another thing. It's just another thing. But when she had taken, I would say, about a half a year, she was really putting a lot of time into it and building it. And then when I had to part ways with her, I saw this asset that she had built and she took some time to do. And I was like, let me look at this. Let me at least give this a shot, because she put a lot of passion into it. Not to mention, I did have to pay her to do it. So I might as well not just throw it out. And I went in. It was so much fun. I mean, it is essentially like having a blog and an email newsletter in one spot. And if you are building a community, if you reach out and you see other people that are on Substack that are within your specific category, and you interact with them and you restack some of their stuff, and you post notes about them, you leave comments, it is really cool. You get this almost reciprocal effect. Now, it doesn't always work that way, but the cool thing is, I can't tell you how many times I've had so many referrals from other people that just enjoy my platform. And Substack is really cool. Is it for everybody? No, but I would recommend that if you, as an author, you're building this as a business, one of the primary things you should have straight up front is going to be email marketing. Get email marketing as a must. It is your safety net. It is your insurance policy, because if for some reason Amazon KDP deplatforms you, or Ingram Spark removes your books, or Drafted Digital closed down your account, guess what? You still have that newsletter, and you have a direct pipeline to your readership. And that right there is a game changer. And the biggest thing I think that is really nice about Substack, does it measure up to other email marketing services like MailerLite or MailChimp or ConvertKit? No, it doesn't have like the automation features, but I think it has the best marriage of almost like having a blog and an email newsletter in one, and that you're able to communicate with them. So if you are finding yourself cash strapped, you don't have an author website, you don't have an email newsletter, I think Substack is probably one of the best ways to go. I'm sure there's going to be some people that would be completely against my advice on this one, and that's completely up to you. But I would say at the very minimum, try to get yourself set up on Substack, interact with people that are within your niche, within your community, and start to grow and foster those relationships, because it is going to be a big benefit to you when you get ready to launch a book, that you have a ready-made audience ready to go. You won't need necessarily, you could be a brand new author, not have a single book out. And if you set up something on Substack and you build that hype and you start to bring in more readers and you get it to where you're connecting with other people within your industry through Substack, the nice thing is when you get ready to launch that book, pardon me, I just punched my microphone, then you are going to have that audience that's ready to go ahead and get that. And you're going to have that unfair advantage that a lot of new authors don't necessarily have. But I'm so glad you brought it up, because I think, to me, Substack is definitely a great place to be. Is it for everyone? No, but I think most authors should at least give it a shot and try it out. And when I say give it a shot, you can visit maybe once per week. It's essentially what I end up doing. It's usually once to twice per week. I pop into Substack, interact with some of the posts that I like, I restack them. I usually do some DMs with some people that I know and things like that. And it's a lot of fun over there. But what have you thought so far of Substack? It seems like you guys are relatively new over there.
Yeah, we are relatively new. And I think what we've been doing really is, like you say, building that community. The whole reason the show started over on YouTube was, again, it birthed itself sort of organically from the writing community. And that's why we obviously adopted the name, and we saw the channel sort of growing on YouTube. But then what we found was that we were having sort of similar interaction every single week. And we thought we needed to find our space in terms of where are our audience. And we're quite a niche show, obviously, in terms of, like, unless you're into writing or the authors that we had on the show, chances are you're not going to come to YouTube to watch it. You're going to YouTube to watch cat videos or something like that. So we thought, we're not going to go on TikTok. We're not the dancing type, but we do need to switch it up. We need to do something. And we felt that Substack could be the place for us for those reasons. Yeah. You know, we've both become more proficient in terms of, Chris is writing more, I'm writing more. I'm writing different things. You know, nonfiction is relatively new to me. Yeah. It's something that I didn't really know that I wanted to go down that nonfiction route. But when I started on Substack, I thought, do I do fiction on here? I've got some short stories. I'll start with that. And then I kind of left it alone for a year. I'd set up the account. I didn't really interact that much. And then I started reading other people's posts and got into it a little bit more. And I thought, oh, do you know what? That's really interesting. I like it when they post. I like hearing about their day or whatever. And it was just more personal. And then I started to use it a little bit more. And I know Chris is using it a bit more. So it's been positive, I think, for us. And anything that's positive, I'd recommend. You know, if it's going to get you writing more, if it's going to hold you account in a different way, I think it's a good thing. So. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you also have the ability to monetize too. And I think that that's kind of nice, having that option available. Then you're not having to go around eBeg with people, you know, you have that passively available and say, hey, if you subscribe for $7 per month, you'll be able to get exclusive access. And getting that exclusive access and providing that stuff is easy. I would say just try to get people into the door first. And if you don't have any ideas, ask them, like, what do you expect
Mm.
from a premium service? But yeah, being able to monetize, I guess that was one of the issues that I didn't bring up. You know, MailerLite and MailChimp and ConvertKit, could you be able to monetize? Absolutely. There's definitely ways you could do that. But I think that having an ability to monetize your email newsletter and the content that you're putting out, that's a game changer. That's really cool. I think it levels the playing field. You look at a platform like YouTube, like kind of like what you said, it's, you know, unless you really start to pick up your audience and reach that critical mass, if you will, it's almost an uphill battle just to get your YouTube channel monetized. And even when you do get it monetized, they're like giving you like $30 here, $40 there. It's nothing fantastic. It's not like AdSense that, like, say, you know, a PewDiePie or Mr. Beast is pulling in.
Yeah, exactly. Like if we were to build secret rooms in our house or something, we'd be on to a winner. But yeah, I'm going to go numbers, and I'm going to ask you to go numbers in terms of, like, I'll be a bit more specific in a minute. But the numbers for the show, like we basically, we were losing money all the time. Like it was
Really?
costing us for 3 years. It cost us. It came out of our own pocket, and we're still losing money, but we are making more money than we were before. So, we're making, I'm not saying we're breaking even yet because we're not close, but the transition and switch over to Substack has been beneficial for us. We're still at a loss, but we're at less of a loss, if that makes sense. So my question related to numbers, because obviously you've been hugely successful in the nonfiction area.
Yeah.
What does it take for a book to be at a sort of number one? Like, because I'm assuming people think, oh, you'd have to sell thousands of books to get that spot. But I know myself, obviously, I sell my own fictional books, and I know even if I get like a handful of sales, I shoot up the charts. And we released a non-fiction novella, not non-fiction. We released a fictional novella that, again, I did it with Halo Scott and Ross Young, and Halo is fantastic at marketing. She's just an absolute genius. And we released it for free, and it's a horror again. So the niche sort of market is there. And it had like over 2,000 downloads in the space of a few days. And that shot to number one on the list and things like that. And I thought, 2,000, like,
Congrats.
That doesn't sound like a lot, really, when you think, to be on that number one spot, you'd think, 28,000 books or whatever sold. But what is your experience like with numbers in terms of, like, how could somebody get on the bestsellers list, and how many books does it take realistically?
It varies on the bestseller list that you're looking at. So something like Amazon, it's much easier. There's a lower barrier of entry to get onto those bestseller lists because they're giving you 3 different categories that you can choose for your native marketplace. And then from there, beyond that native marketplace, they just kind of put you into the categories they think best fits from your native marketplace. And so from there, it depends on how much activity is on a specific marketplace at a given time. So for instance, it is much harder to get a number one bestseller in Amazon US as opposed to, say, Amazon Japan, where it's going to be way less sales to get to that because there's not as much buyers on that marketplace. There's not as much sales that's being driven through there. So those other regional marketplaces make a huge, huge difference. So you're right. There's going to be some instances that it's going to be 2,000 copies of a book to get yourself into the number one spot. But then there are some instances, if you pick a specific category that's rather sub niche, then chances are very likely you can sell 2-3 copies in a given day and hit number one bestseller status for that particular category. Now, is it number one overall in Amazon? No. If you want to get number one overall in Amazon, that's going to take thousands. And you're talking thousands within a given day. But it's super easy to get that number one bestseller status if you're in a sub niche and you're in a category that's less competition, and it's very easy to break into. So for instance, I know for my specific niche for authorship, it's not many sales at all to get to number one. Like it's dead simple. But the thing that I think about when it comes to bestseller list is a number of years ago, it was in 2016 that I had my first like breakaway hit, like I was over the moon. It was January 2016, and I was so excited that it got #1 in numerous categories and in numerous countries, and I'm just high-fiving everybody. And like I say to my wife, I'm like, hey, we got #1 bestseller. How cool is that? And she's like, they're paying you more? I'm like, no. She's like, so what? And that's when it hit me that sometimes bestseller status makes no bit of difference if you're trying to pay your bills. Now, if you're looking at it from an ego standpoint and you're just in it as a hobbyist, it's great. It's fantastic. From a marketing standpoint, yeah, it's good. You can go around saying, hey, I was a #1 best-selling author over on Amazon. People are going to be like, yeah, wow. But then kind of like, as you say, if you were to tell them the amount of work that it goes into getting that placement, some people are going to go, oh, it only took you 12 book sales in a day to become a #1 bestseller. I thought it would be tens of thousands. Tens of thousands is true. If you're looking at bestseller lists that are like the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, it used to be New York Times. There are a number of those bestseller lists that are being reported to through brick and mortar stores as opposed to Amazon. And Amazon's not going and sharing their sales numbers with that type of stuff. You're not going to get reported to those lists if you do that through just exclusively through Amazon. The way that you can be able to hit those lists, if you are getting into brick and mortar, that you're getting your book out there, you're getting into the right retail platforms that are reporting those sales to those bestseller lists. So I think that's the important thing, is to differentiate between what Amazon can do and then what those larger bestseller lists expect. And there's a huge separation. And I think it's for a good reason. Amazon is a very polarizing company. There's a lot of people that like it, and there are a lot of competitors that very much dislike it, and for good reason.
Brilliant. We've got about 9 minutes left of the show. If you're watching now and you've got questions, please send them in and we'll try and squeeze them in. I'm going to ask another one, though, that's directly linked to what we've just said. Now I'm waffling because I can't remember what it was I was going to ask.
I derailed you.
It was... Yeah, no, it's because I was trying to look at the comments to see the questions coming in as well. What was it I was going to ask? Oh, it's gone. Somebody asked me a question in the comments, and I will fire that and ping that in, and it will come back to me. I know.
How do you feel about the bestseller status yourself?
It's one of them. Like, it's exactly what you said. Some people have sold like 200 books and they've got onto that bestseller list, and it's sort of, they thought, oh, we've got that label. And I know, oh, that's my question. Thank you, Dale.
I knew we'd get it out of you.
Yeah. So my thing was, what tricks and tips could you give people that you've seen trad pub companies do? And the reason why that's jogged my memory is because we know a publisher, and I'm not going to mention who they are, but they do put their authors' books in obscure categories initially, and then they remove them afterwards. So they get that little bestseller label or tag, put them in a really obscure category, like, shaving sheep's spleens or whatever. I don't know what the category is.
It's an amazing category.
Yeah, and then they take it out, and then but the flag still remains. Yeah. So what other sort of things have you heard, or have you found that traditional published authors do that maybe we could use ourselves and get a little leg up?
I definitely would. It's what you're referring to is called category squatting. It is actually against Amazon terms of service to put your book into a category that is not representative of the book that it's supposed to be in. So to me, I would say if you're looking at trying to do that practice so that way you can become a best-selling author, I would just discourage you against it, especially if you're using a platform like KDP. Traditional publishing companies can get away with it. They really can. They probably have a completely different royalty structure. They probably have a lot of different merchandising options that we as indie authors don't have. But I would recommend definitely don't do category squatting, because it's a surefire way of, pretty much welcoming KDP to terminating your account. I've known of a number of people, like, they allow you to choose your own categories now. Yet if you choose the wrong category, they can and will shut down your account, which of course is just completely defeating the purpose. And also you have to kind of ask yourself, like, if you're putting your book into a category that's completely irrelevant to your book, like, what are you doing? You got bestseller status for, what was it? Shaving sheep's weeds. Like, but your book is about, let's say, I don't know, how to repair a guitar manual. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, that is just such a hollow victory. Like, what difference does that make? You can go around saying you're a bestseller, but if someone were to check your receipts, they'd go, look at you. You grabbed this random category. That's garbage here. So is that a trick that you could probably do? Yes. Is it one that I recommend? Absolutely not. And just pick a category that makes the most sense for your book to be on a virtual bookshelf. You got to think of it like going into a library. Would it make sense to see this book in this particular section? If not, don't put it there. I think I've seen a number of fiction authors that do this. And this is TradPub and IndiePub, where, let's say, for instance, it's like a medical romance. And then they're putting it into a nonfiction category for medical. Like, what are you doing? That is fiction. Stay out of nonfiction's categories. But that is probably one of the ways to do things. And the other thing is influencer marketing would probably be a more ethical way of doing things, because I see a lot of TradPub companies that are leveraging influencers to get their book in front of more people. And you're going to be pretty surprised that not all influencers expect you to rain money down upon them. Sometimes just gifting them a digital copy of your book or a print copy of your book is enough for them. Now, will I say that that's going to happen to everybody across the board? No. Chances are very likely, if you try to reach out to, say, Logan Paul to, get a, copy your book, he's probably going to be asking for some pretty big numbers. But you don't need to always look for these viral influencers in order to do influencer marketing. Sometimes the smallest, most engaged audiences are probably going to be the most ideal for you. Just make sure that whatever your book is makes sense to that influencer and their audience. Because let's say, I don't know, I've got a book that's about, I don't know, cooking recipes. It's a recipe book. I could go onto Joe Rogan's podcast, but will it sell to Joe Rogan's audience? Probably not. It's not going to make very much sense. I mean, sure, I'm going to get broadcast out to millions of people, but there's only so much of that overlap of people that want that. So look into influencer marketing and don't be afraid to approach somebody and say, hey, I've got this book that's coming out and I would love to gift you a copy. If you would just do me a huge favor and share it with your audience. I think that they're going to love it. If you can tell them what's in it for them, you can keep your wallet put away. You don't need to worry about raining thousands upon thousands of dollars to do influencer marketing.
That's brilliant advice and a great tie into this question that I'm about to ask you. So, do you recommend doing ads, marketing companies, blog tours, other? Now, obviously the other links to influencers that you've covered, but could you cover some of the other questions?
Well, it just so happens I haven't been able to plug anything just yet here. I've got a book called Advertising for Books. It's about using Amazon ads for promoting your books and such. That is right now on the marketplace. So yes. Premium ads are worthwhile. We're just going to hope that that doesn't fall over. It's going to fall over. Yes, premium ads, definitely the way to go. I recommend if you have a book on Amazon's marketplace, definitely leverage Amazon advertising, whether you get my book or you go and get the free Amazon advertising certification courses they have available inside your dashboard. That's the way to go. You don't need to plunk down thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars to learn the whole system. It's just a case of just trying to learn that. Amazon ads would be the way to go. Facebook ads would probably be the next, but it becomes a little bit more complex and I'm not your go-to guy for that. Blog tours, I hear mixed, it's a mixed bag. I hear some people that get fantastic results, and I hear some other people that say there's no results at all. It's going to vary. I would say test it out, give it a shot. And I mean, if you find it doesn't do any good, then hey, at least you have more discoverability online from doing some of these blog tours. It's going to bring your name up more often than say if you weren't to do it. So there is that benefit of doing blog tours. It can make a huge difference if you put in the reps and you put in the time. But to me, I think premium ads are definitely the way to go if you have the budget. Big if. Do not spend what you can't afford to lose, because advertising, it's like going to a casino. It's a lot of gambling, and especially if you don't know how to play the game. You can go over to a blackjack table and hope for the best. But if you don't know how to get your cards up to 21 without busting, you're in a real world of hurt. So proceed with caution when it comes to premium ads.
Brilliant advice there. I'm going to squeeze this question in.
Nice.
Because it's from Chris. So how do you know when your manuscript is truly ready to publish? What signs indicate that you still need a bit more work?
Ooh, beta readers. You got to get some beta readers. Absolutely. And you can get at least one beta reader. I've heard many successful authors that just rely on one good beta reader. I prefer to have 3 because then it goes through 3 separate filters to make sure everything is good and clean and ready to go. But beta readers are going to be the huge thing because then you'll know you're going in the right direction. And then that extra layer of protection is, of course, professional editor. Get yourself a good professional editor because that professional editor will tell you if it's not ready. A good editor is going to tell you like, hey, it needs this much work. And then last but not least, your last layer of protection is an advanced reader copy team. If you have some advanced readers that will be willing to read your book in exchange for posting a review after it launches, they're also another way to kind of know, because I'll have from time to time where I have an advanced reader copy team and someone finds a typo. And I'm like, whew, fix that typo really fast and it's ready to rock and roll. But yes, bottom line is professional editor will be able to tell you exactly when you're ready to rock and roll. And you got to trust them. Like there are some times where I've looked at a book and I go, oh, this needs another round of edits. And they're like, no, stop, Dale. There is so much editing that you can do before you start just making it worse. So I think that if you get that great editor who isn't just changing how you write, but they're enhancing what you're doing. They're complementing what you're putting into your manuscript. That's a big game changer. I'm super fortunate that I've got such an amazing editor in Jeannie DeVita.
That's brilliant. Dale, our time is up. But I'm going to ask you one more thing before we go, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
I know you are massive into the community. You're huge in terms of working with loads of other people. But I'm just going to ask if you could put the spotlight on 3 people that we may not know about that you think deserve a bit of attention. Who would those 3 be? And also, leading on to that, what else would you like to say before we wrap up?
First of all, thanks. I appreciate you, both Chris's, Chris Squared. I appreciate you guys having me on as per usual. It was funny. I reached out to you guys and you were like, yes, please, let's come on back over here. And I didn't want to spend all this time promoting any of my books. You see the books, they're there. Great, go get them. As far as shouting out 3 people, oh my gosh. First of all, there's one guy that comes off the top of my head, Mark Leslie Lefebvre. He is a fantastic nonfiction and fiction author. He's also the founder of Kobo Writing Life. He is an international speaker. He is probably one of the kindest gentlemen I know. And he literally just got a degree in creative writing with a focus on publishing. This man founded a company. He's been in this business since the 1990s. So Mark Leslie Lefebvre is number 1. Number 2, Julie Broad from Book Launchers. This woman is just, man, she is so smart. She puts out great content over on YouTube. She is my hero when it comes to video creators. Her content quality is just top notch. I always look at hers and I go, how can I be able to match that type of a level? But she's brilliant beyond measure. She's built an amazing team over at Book Launchers and doing nonfiction books. And then 3rd would be, oh gosh, let me see here, Angela Yuriko Smith. You guys got to check out Angela. She's got an amazing Substack called Authortunities. Her energy is just boundless. I love me some Angela Yuriko Smith. She's now going to be the future president of the Horror Writers Association. She's already on their board and just so good. The Authortunities newsletter on Substack is incredible because she shows all these different opportunities that authors have available to them. But those 3, Mark Leslie Lefebvre, Julie Broad, and Angela Yuriko Smith, so awesome. I think that you guys would benefit greatly, not only just having them here on the show, but anybody that's watching this or listening to this, go check them out. Those 3 are amazing.
Love that. And Dale, anything finally from you just to wrap it up in terms of anything, anywhere you want to direct us? You know, if somebody hasn't read one of your books before, what would you recommend they start with? Obviously, they've got plenty to choose from.
Yes, lots to choose from. I'll tell you, I'll make it super, super easy because my website is the hub for everything. It's selfpublishingwithdale.com. Again, that's selfpublishingwithdale, as in Chippendale.com. So selfpublishingwithdale.com. You guys will be able to get all the information. My bookshelf is there, my podcast, my YouTube, everything else. You'll be able to get all that information there.
Brilliant. And on that note, yeah, we're going to say love and leave everybody. And normally this is a bit that I wave and Chris sends us out. So I'm just going to look at the banner and see how we can send us out. And yeah, next week, I'm pretty sure that we're at the Brooklyn Book Festival. I don't think there's a Friday show. I think it's a Saturday show. But check us out, because I may be wrong on that information because I'm not the admin person. We may well have another guest on Friday, but I don't think that's the case. I think we're at Brooklyn Book Festival, and then we're going to have a little break before we kick off season 15. But Dale, it's been an absolute pleasure. The hour has just literally flown by. I can't believe we've been chatting for an actual hour. But yeah, until next week, guys, thank you very much. I'm going to wave, and Dale's going to say his prayers, and thank you, and see you next week.